I'm Darren McErlain, and thanks for joining me for this special presentation. There are many Australian broadcasters we could pay tribute to, but one man stands out as a true leader of entertainment and information. Brian Henderson brought music to the teens and delivered news to our screens. From 1957 to 2002, Hendo was in our homes, so we thought of him as family. Brian celebrated his 85th birthday on September 15 in 2016. Let's take a look at some of the events that shaped his media career. Brian Weir Henderson was born in New Zealand in 1931 and migrated to Australia. Hendo had a long-term connection with the Nine Network, hosting a variety of shows and news bulletins from the Sydney newsroom at Willoughby. Brian is currently Australia's longest-serving newsreader, arriving in the country in 1953 to work as a disc jockey at 2CH before working for Channel 9. So how did the idea of Bandstand come about? The American version aired in the USA from 1952 to 1989. A music variety show in Australia exploded on the ABC called 6 O'Clock Rock with Johnny O'Keefe. It screened on a Saturday night at 6 p.m. in February 1959. 6,000 teens queued for tickets to be part of the live studio audience. 9 months down the track, Brian Henderson's Bandstand on TCN9 changed the face of rock and roll. A family-friendly version of Bandstand ran for 14 years and started the singing careers of many Australian musicians, Hendo included.
This flame in my heart is like an eternal fire, for every day it burns hotter.
And gee, it's good to be on National Bandstand. Greetings to all our friends through Brisbane, Adelaide, Melbourne, and of course Sydney. We have a knockout show again for you today.
Square is another of the good old words that's gone the way of love, modesty, and patriotism. Something to be sniggered over or...
One part of your lifetime belongs to one of those wonderful songs. We buy our outfits that we are both cowboys. You buy an outfit, you can be a cowboy too. Not long ago I was walking down the street when a woman in a car knocked me off my feet. Oh, that's bad. No, that's good.
And dancing.
As I walk along a wobble-along with an independent air, you can hear the girls declare, he must be a millionaire.
Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. My master's gone.
Brian also included Donkey Rider in his CV.
He's had two careers. He had Bandstand all those years ago, now of course with the news thing. In Bandstand, I mean, he was a national icon.
His first news broadcast in 1957 used a sign-off tagline that still echoes in our memory.
That's the way it is.
Still thinking of you, you're number one to ask.
When you need to know, more Australians rely on National 9 News.
In 1968, Henderson won the TV Week Gold Logie Award for Most Popular Personality on Australian television. Music in the 1980s had a very distinct sound, and we always knew we had an appointment with Brian Henderson when we heard this sound.
In the news ahead, the Liberals begin an important conference in Adelaide, and the teenager judged America's best juggler.
The image of Hendo was so iconic in Australia that he was often satirised within the radio and TV industry.
Good evening. Oh, no, not again. That was their horrified cry as millions of screaming Australians fled in terror from their television sets today.
Luckily, Brian Henderson had a good sense of humour and would often use this at the end of the bulletins to have a friendly go at fellow presenters at Channel 9.
Well, it is Monday, July 28th. Mike Willesee follows with his 500th show on Channel 9 this time round, although we can't resist saying this is the 10,903rd evening news. This is Brian Henderson. Good night.
During the 35th anniversary of television in 1991, Hendo spoke about the advances in newsroom technology.
Now we can bring the news to you with the speed of light.
With the speed of light.
I'll continue. Animal experts are up in arms over plans to send some of our wildlife overseas. The state government has offered to lend 2 platypuses to Japan, but there are fears they may not survive the visit. We'll put another shilling in the meter and then come back. Well, there's a first for everything.
We take news and current affairs seriously. You can see it in our faces. You can see it in our faces.
I've got to say, Hendo, it's nice to see you again. Drive safely now. That's it.
We're back in the Channel 9 car park again.
Back again, yeah.
Next, Alan Wilkie with the weather. Then, the last of their kind.
He certainly was the last of his kind.
This is Brian Henderson. Well, it is Tuesday, March 2nd. This is Brian Henderson. Good night.
How can we forget a sign-off like that? He also holds the record for the longest-serving television news presenter. His final bulletin, The Way It Was read on Friday, the 29th of November.
Good evening. Rebel postal workers wish their fellow
There are a few certainties in life. One has been relying on Brian Henderson to tell you the way it is, weeknights at 6.
Breaking news in the Bali investigation.
Now, after all these years, Brian is moving on. Join us as Sydney says farewell to a television great in his final week. National 9 News with Brian Henderson, weeknights at 6.
In the 2009 Australia Day Honours, Henderson was named a member of the Order of Australia. In 2012, Henderson came out of retirement to narrate a documentary for the Foxtel network, The Train, the Granville Rail Disaster. In April 2013, Henderson received a second Gold Logie at the Logie Awards when he was inducted in the TV Week Logie's Hall of Fame. In 2014, he revealed he was suffering from throat cancer. He's already survived bowel, prostate and skin cancer. He spoke to Damien Ryan from 9 News.
We were at the GP. I had a list of things I was asking him, and right at the end, after we'd gone through the list, Marty said, "Oh, hang on, you've been saying you've got a bit of discomfort in the back of your throat." I said, "Oh, yeah." So he checked that, and from there on, he said, "Well, no, you'll need to get that looked at." I'm not exactly looking forward to it, but I repeat, I'm lucky. It was found then, and the prognosis is good. The doctors seldom say, yes, we will cure it, unless they're sure, and they are, so that's why.
Henderson came out of retirement for a second time in 2016 for Australian Story on ABC TV for a special about Little Paddy and the Battle of Long Tan.
Hello, I'm Brian Henderson. That was me in the 1960s when I presented my music show Bandstand.
Many of his friends came forward to remember the highlights of his media career when he retired in 2002.
I admire 2 things about you most of all. That is your integrity and your authority.
You must be precise around Hendo because as a newsreader, they don't get any more precise than Brian Henderson.
Brian Henderson is my rock, my fortress, my anchor.
Oh, he's superseded, and his name is Hendo.
But there's no way in this climate that I would come and give a roast to the leader of the National Party, Brian Henderson. Brian and the newsreader John Henderson, and these people, well, I get confused.
Leaving Channel 9 will be not so much a wrench as an amputation. Well, I guess it's time now to fill the glass and start the anaesthesia.
Use squares to hold the thankless
He is
world.
now focusing his energy on his wife Marty, his 4 children and his 5 grandchildren, as well as fighting his battle with throat cancer.
Papa writes to Johnny, Johnny can't come home. Johnny can't come home, no, Johnny can't come home. Papa writes to Johnny, Johnny can't come home, 'cause he's been on the chain gang.
This is Brian Henderson. Good night.
Happy 85th birthday to a news reading icon, Brian Henderson. Darren McErlain, Sydney.